Okay, I think I'm back. I am very sorry about that. I hope you guys could find me. I'm learning something new every day. I didn't know I had to do that. I must have missed a setting in OBS. Apparently, you can manually force it to do a certain amount of keyframes, so I think that's solved. Anyway, let's get back into it. Hello, and welcome to the Technocrat Live the second time. I'm your host, Matthew Newhall, and I'm hoping this will be a little bit smoother than the last one where it was complaining that I was not sending keyframes often enough. I recently had a thing a couple weeks ago where OBS committed sewer pipes, and then I had to rapidly reconfigure it. It took an hour last time. I just had one configuration problem. I'm not sure what happened. But anyway, I'm back on. I want to give everybody a minute and just tell you. So I have some audio and some visual changes planned. I have some podcast changes. I'm working on audio improvement right now. I solved the main problem, which was a very noisy heat pump pipe that was just ever so slightly passing through the office, covered it up, and I seem to be okay. But I also want to get rid of some of the echo. It's pretty tinny in here. I'd like it if it was warmer, and especially when people are interviewing each other, we have bare walls and we're just bouncing sound waves off each other, and you can hear the difference. So I want to mop that up, and I'm working on that project right now. And then next up is the video, and then next up is getting onto more podcast platforms. So maybe that will be the same time as the first guest. I'm going to try to get all this going. Some free time is freeing up, so I'm pumped about the possibility of that actually happening. The streams per bit rate is lower than the recommended bit rate. All right, that's just a warning, though. It is functioning. So, okay, I'm going to ignore that for now. Apologize for all the interruptions. I will, I'm going to take a picture of this. Hold on 1 second. I'm my own engineer, so I used to have a dedicated engineer on my show. I adore him and Area 22, Steve, over at Area 22, and I miss him terribly. It was easier to just be a host and not have to worry about being an engineer at the same time. But I am a technocrat. I'm like, I think I can manage this. So far, it's been pretty good the past few weeks withstanding. I'll be doing some more stress testing, and I'm actually planning a redundant setup. So even if one of my systems nukes itself, maybe I'll even force myself to alternate back and forth between the two redundant setups just to make sure that they really do work, not some test environment that nobody ever tests on. Yeah, so that's the plan anyway. Who knows if that's really going to work. I sure hope my viewers find my way back here. And if not, if you want a time shift, that's fine. If you do wander in here, please give it a like. I really appreciate that. And also consider subscribing. And the thing I really want you to do is comment. Today's show's kind of short. It's just Dystopia Report, no interview. As you can see, there's no guest next to me. So that's the news is kind of contingent on what's happening in the news. Like, I could do filler stories. There is lots of amusing and bigger, harder to explain tech stories going on there. But the purpose of this segment is really the news, to keep you up for what's changed recently. And some weeks there's just not a lot of change. So we got a few stories. Let's get into, without further ado, the Dystopia Report. All right, so the first section is tech. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. I have a message. Let's see what's going on. Probably nothing. You never know. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, so the first section is tech, and I got bad news. If you're white, if you're a white person, you might be a robot. Turns out we are actually robots, or at least that's when we're the most believable, is when people think we're robots, right? Or we're robots and that's why we are believable. Anyway, apparently AI-generated white faces are more believable by sampling, by survey, than actual photographs of actual white people. So in other words, if you make up a white person using AI, it's more likely to be believed than an actual white person. This is only a white person problem. Other races need not apply. Apparently, they have better hit rates, at least for the moment, from actual people seeing real photographs and saying that's a real person and getting it correct, than they do with people of Caucasian complexion. Wow. I don't even know. Do people use Caucasian anymore? I don't know. I'm like in a 70s cop show sometimes. Anyway, this is a survey of, now this is not American, this is a survey of Australia, the UK, and the Netherlands. But, it's kind of interesting. Some people were already making some, it is a racial topic, but it is making race disadvantage overtones towards it. And as far as I can see, this could actually become a serious credibility problem. I mean, I have people friending me all the time, and I'm fairly convinced the majority of them are bots and not real people. So I may have already experienced this sort of disappointment with reality myself. Anyway, so that's that for now. Let me just check. I didn't check and see if Odyssey is functioning. Just want to make sure we're still up and running over here. I believe we are. Yes, we are. Excellent. Odyssey has a better behavior, I think, with this. But okay. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. The next story is Rivian. So if you don't know, Rivian makes trunks, among other things, the trucks that they make. Some of their trucks are the trucks that the Amazon delivery fleet uses. So they have they recently did an update. Hey, what's up, Jennifer? Thanks for tuning in. Subliminal Starsky and Hutch reference. Nice. Yes. I do subliminal references all the time, and I want to see if you're awake or you're asleep, because that's how you can tell sometimes. So sorry about the delay. I appreciate you tuning in. All right, so Rivian bricked the infotainment systems in their trucks with an over-the-air update. I mean, this is like the ultimate I told you so. The R1Ss and the R1Ts, like I mentioned, not the Amazon vans. Holy cow, do you get it yet? I mean, this is like, this is not unheard of in the software world. This happens, right? Sometimes when you do a software update, it goes wrong, and it can make your machine malfunction. I mean, generally speaking, this is considered to be really bad, especially when you have an automated update. But this is the problem with automated updates in general. This is not a Rivian-specific problem. This is something that could happen to anything that has a computer that receives a security update over the air, which is one of the reasons that connecting things to the internet automatically and having them do automatic updates like some cars do is really, really bad. Apparently, this was a decision that Rivian owners could make to update their telematics units. I don't know if they were prompted or they had to go seek it out. I think they were prompted. So it means a lot of people probably clicked yes because they just trusted them. Apparently, that was a big mistake. But whatever you do, don't repair your own car, because that could go terribly wrong. Rivian's got you. Or, look, I'm not picking on Rivian. I actually, all right, yeah, you should pick on them. They should probably have done a test run on a few in-house vehicles first, just to be safe. It only takes 10 minutes, guys. But on the other hand, they have no solution. Apparently, this is a bad certificate that went out to the cars and bricked the telematic systems. They don't work at all. The good news is the vans or the trucks still function. So they're not dead, but they're not dead in the water. But yeah, the telematic systems and all the access to all of the all the basic controls of the vehicle still work and the vehicle drives, but you can't interface with any of the advanced features of the vehicle whatsoever, including some things that we would think of as normal. I'm sure there's some climate control options that are blocked out. And, anything like navigation is completely out of the picture. Wow. I mean, Rivian might go out of business. I mean, they've been a moderately successful company, and they might just die just from this one thing alone. And I mean, And the reason I say that is it's not like this is something they can just fix. Apparently, they've been sitting on this for days. They've acknowledged the problem publicly, and they said they don't have a fix yet. They probably aren't going to have a fix. They're probably going to need to make a fix where you have to drive your truck, to a Rivian dealer, and they stick a USB key in, or they snail mail you a USB key stick and stick it in. And that's the optimistic scenario. They may not even have that. They may not even have the USB stick solution. This may be a rip and replace situation where they have to crack open your dashboard and physically remove the computer and put a new one in. Now, think about that kind of power and how that can affect your life. And this is exactly what I'm talking about with a combination. I mean, before self-driving cars was even seriously considered, I was complaining about always-on internet connections and insecure computers peppering your CAN bus, being able to access the internet, right? That was just a recipe for being broken into, a recipe for disaster for the old-timers. But yeah, I mean, this is, you add in self-driving cars, drive-by-wire, but not only is it drive-by-wire, but the car is designed around the idea that the computer's in complete control. I mean, if you're lucky, you'll just get bricked. I mean, this is proof positive that a major manufacturer can get their entire lines of cars broken into. And it was just a fat finger mistake, which is a very expensive fat finger mistake. But it doesn't have to be next time. It could just be a security hole, a 0 day. That's it. That's all it takes. A single 0 day stands between us and utter chaos on the roads nationwide, worldwide. So the thoughts on a 2009 Jeep Cherokee with 90,000 miles on it. Jeep does not have a great reputation. A few things about Jeep. Jeep runs Linux underneath, so Linux needs to be updated on a regular basis. Of course, Chrysler has a system for doing that. Jeep does not have a great reputation for dependability. On the other hand, most modern cars, if their mechanical parts have been kept up to date, will be fine at 90,000 miles. So, I mean, it's no better or worse. The problem is everything, in this example, the problem is everything that's been had a problem from, let's say, everything that's been had a CAN bus permanently attached to the internet, or maybe there's a single computer between it and the CAN bus, like the telematics unit, has been every car has been doing this since about 2015 or so. So any modern car is going to have this problem. You got to go back to ECUs without a CAN bus to really truly be safe from the possibility of getting hacked. Okay, so that's it for Rivian. Maybe that's it for Rivian. We'll find out. Huge news. I mean, this is why even when there's a slow news day, I have to run the news. Newsweek, I have to run the news because holy cow, that is monstrous. And this is just kind of a fun story, but I thought it was interesting. New York City let Velovopter. Wow, that's a lot to say. Velovopter, which is a air taxi service or a flying car service, actually demo a flying taxi off of a helipad in New York City, and to make the case that they're actually planning heliports at the other end of these things at the airports. So the bad news is this is not going to be available for normal people. I'm sure it's going to be hideously expensive. You need a helipad. You can't just launch this thing off the street. So it's basically going to have all the logistics and expense problems of a helipad in Manhattan. On the other hand, if you happen to be rich and you want to get to the airport really quick, the ETA for these electric-powered robo helicopter things is 7 minutes. So 7 minutes to an airport from Manhattan is pretty incredible. Anyway, seemed to work fine. It was kind of cool and futuristic. Check it out on techcrunch.com if you want to know more. And now that we're past that, let's get on to science. So the UK, yay UK, has approved Sickle cell CRISPR treatment. So, in case you didn't know, sickle cell is what is responsible for what's known as sickle cell anemia. There was also another anemia type blood disease that was covered by this, but I'm just talking about sickle cell because that's the one I knew better, and I can discuss it. Yeah, we know a few people. We do know a few people who could afford it, for sure. Yeah, so it looks like this is the first CRISPR drug. Well, actually, I wrote CRISPR drug. What I should have said is this is going to be the first mainline approved CRISPR treatment. So if you don't know what CRISPR is, it was all the rage about 10 years ago when it was first discovered, and a group of scientists, not just one scientist, there's actually about 6 institutions involved, received the Nobel Prize for their work with CRISPR. CRISPR is the process where that a particular group of bacteria use to incorporate pieces of the DNA of viruses that are threatening those bacterias, or foreign objects, foreign proteins that are threatening those bacterias, into the DNA so they know how to eject them. It turns out it is a perfect cut and paste mechanism for all DNA, including mammalian and plant and whatever. So this is a enormous vector to cure genetic disease through, and a lot of people have been waiting for that to happen. And I think we are finally here. This is the promise of CRISPR. If you heard CRISPR, 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 and then nothing came of it, this is something coming of it. So unfortunately, the delivery method is pretty much archaic, although it doesn't take a lot of imagination to understand why that might not be the case for much longer, as much as it's terrifying, because anything where you're dumping RNA into the body is terrifying. Just crank out these proteins forever. But you could theoretically use a RNA-like delivery mechanism to deliver the CRISPR DNA editing proteins, but they're not doing that yet. They're actually doing transplants. So what they're doing is they're taking out stem cells, your own stem cells from your bone marrow. Apparently there are some stem cells present. And by the way, there are also genetic techniques to convert adult cells back into stem cells. So even if that wasn't possible, might have been the way they went. I think they're trying to go for as cheap as possible here. And then they change the gene in there, and I should have brought my glasses. Sorry about that, but it is the I don't have the gene name for the sickle cell story. Sorry, but they change a particular gene, which is the one that creates the mutation, which changes the shape of the red blood cells, which makes them not as effective with oxygen uptake. And here's the good news. So they've been doing this for about a year of clinical trials, and they're talking about 1 out of 40. So it's about a 96% success rate over 1 year in clinical trials. And remember, because they're actually doing cell removal and insertion, these are really great numbers. They're basically saying this is a one-time treatment. It's not going to be cheap because, of course, they're basically taking cells out of your body, gene editing them on the bench, and then putting them back in your body. But like I said, I expect that mechanism to change very shortly. I mean, this is early nanotech, people. If you're pumped about nanotech, this is going to make a huge difference. Basically, they just cured sickle cell anemia. So, actually, I got into a really great debate just this weekend about an I Am Legend viral R kind of delivery system through something like CRISPR and RNA. This is one half of that equation in the news this week. So the other half, of course, is the actual delivery mechanism that doesn't involve a bench. They'll probably keep a bench in there for a little while just because of that zombie virus scenario. But if something were to go wrong, like something unexpected, some sort of software bug, we're starting to get to the point where we might have to start talking about DNA edits as software. Let that sink in. All right. Anyway, this is really great news. I mean, there's people. This is frequently fatal when people suffer from bouts of anemia. Apparently, you could be hospitalized as long as a year per bout of anemia. So, wow, holy cow. Anyway, lots of different sources on this. The press doesn't know what the hell is going on. 100 different contradictory stories. The best sources I found so far were the BBC, The Guardian, and Wired. Anyway, so go check it out. The name of the company is, the name of the drug, the treatment is Casveggie, and it's by Vertex Pharmaceuticals. Yeah. Maybe you can only get your sickle cell anemia when you take an air taxi to a space doctor, and then they can take care of your sickle cell anemia and your space kidney stones at the same time. That was a story from last week. You know, being in space gives you kidney stones. Yeah, they didn't cover that in The Expanse. Anyway, so, and then the final story in science is not to be confused with the Vertex Pharmaceuticals. Verve Therapeutics is a Cambridge, Massachusetts-based biotech company. They also have come up with a CRISPR edit. It's just not ready to be approved by the UK government and the FDA like this other one is, although it may be next. It may be number 2. We're number 2 as far as CRISPR cures for genetic disease. It looks like there is, if you edit the PCSK9 gene, that will, in the liver, so specifically in liver cells, this will lower your LDL, or your bad cholesterol. That's the one that's, there's two different cholesterols. You have one that's actually good for you and one that's bad for you. This will lower your bad cholesterol 50%. And for people with really bad LDL problems, this is the difference between a relatively healthy life and disaster. Physiologically, that was the word I was looking for. Anyway, so this is liver cells are the cells. Again, they're pulling liver cells out, gene editing them, and placing them back in. Really awkward, almost, as Bones might say in Star Trek, almost barbaric transplant method. But it is your own cells, and they are, and I assume, I'm not sure if they're reverting them back to stem cells, making the change. They might have to. That might be part of the process. So that discovery happened about 2 years ago. Or at least it hit the wire about 2 years ago, and I covered it on the show. The process of reverting a cell back to a stem cell. Remember, there was a whole controversy during in the early zeros over we can't harvest stem cells from embryos. Well, they long since figured out how to convert normal cells into stem cells. In other words, de-age them back to babyhood. We got, maybe it could be in, here we go. Okay. Yeah, look, we don't want to hear about your space kidney, okay? Anyway, that's Verve Thermogenics and Ars Technica. If you want to read more, really cool. I'm really glad to see CRISPR actually coming around and really being used to cure genetic diseases. Even though there's only a few specific stories this week, really great news, and I'm so glad I'm doing this show so I could share that with you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please, if you enjoy the show, give me a subscribe, give me a like. There's a lot of big changes coming. Interviews are coming back. I miss doing interviews, but my life was just too crazy. I had too many balls in the air. Some balls have since landed safely. I'm very glad. Thank you for caring. But now that I have less to juggle, I can juggle you guys more quickly. So prepare to be juggled. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night. I'll see you guys next week. Choose wisely. Choose to share. Good night, everyone.